What's up guys, and welcome to another Reddit stories video. The goal for the channel is to get to 1,000 subs by the end of 2024, and if you could subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Now into the first story. One of my family's friends growing up had a beach house, and I'd get invited every now and then. They had money and the house was massive. Pretty cool place too. They even had a full-time maid who had her own flat at the back. One day they go there for a long weekend, and when they open the door, the place had been ransacked. It was all a mess, missing TVs, furniture, broken stuff. You get the picture. They went to check on the maid and her flat was empty. All of her belongings were gone. They called the police, who came over and had a brief look, not interested from what they said, and left saying the maid probably had something to do with it. And that's what they believed for a week. Until the dad returned the following weekend to try and change the locks. He brought their dogs along with him. Yep, you know it. One of the dogs started digging and found the maid buried in the backyard under the tarp they had close to the pool. So the theory now is that whoever came in probably knew her, and she recognized them, and she had to go. I did not expect this to be so popular. I received a ridiculous amount of DMs, so I'll share some of the stuff I remember. Apparently she had been profusely tortured before being killed and then dismembered. Cigarette burns everywhere. Some other larger burns that probably were from a Zippo-like lighter being heat up, or some other kind of metal object. Tiny little cuts everywhere, some larger ones too. Then they were missing nails, teeth, toes, smashed bones. The horror that woman must have endured. I don't know if she was sexually assaulted or not. I don't even know if the police knew. The one I'll never forget is that one of the cops told them that one of her eyes had been pierced. Understandably, the family was incredibly shaken up by all this and sold the place shortly after. I get insomnia. It was one of those nights, and I was sitting out on my back porch at about 4 a.m. smoking a cigarette. It was one of those eerie nights where there is absolutely no breeze and it's just completely quiet out. We have woods behind our house, and as I was sitting there, see this person making his way through the canopy of the trees, jumping from tree to tree, 30 or 40 feet up in the air. I was absolutely stunned and just sat there dumbly, too afraid and confused to even get up and run inside the house. This person or thing or whatever it was stops directly behind my house and looks at me. At this point, it's about 50 feet away and maybe 40 feet up in the air. It pauses for about 5 seconds, staring in my direction. I'm absolutely certain that it wasn't an animal. Its body was human-shaped, and it definitely wasn't a raccoon, a bear, or any other things people have suggested it might have been. But the way it was moving through the trees definitely was not human. No human, I don't care how adroit they were, could move like that. It was too dark to make out much detail, the face, clothing, or anything like that. After about 5 seconds of looking at me, it turns away and takes off the same way it had been going before, just leaping from tree to tree at a fast pace. Within a few more seconds, it was out of sight. Holy shit, I think I've seen that. My grandfather used to take me camping and hunting with him in Arkansas, in the forest just outside of the Washita National Forest. And I distinctly remember one night laying down after we'd let the campfire gutter out. We were just talking back and forth, and all of a sudden he made that noise that meant shut your mouth now. Usually it meant he had spotted game. So I immediately clammed up and started listening and straining to see what had gotten his attention. A few moments later, I see a black man-shaped figure walking through the treetops. The tree limbs didn't bend or even move, neither did the leaves. But this black man-shaped figure, it didn't even really walk. It sauntered, and it almost skipped from tree to tree, like it had no weight. I remember being scared and whispering, "Grandpa, what is..." And he very quietly said, "Don't you dare call it to you. Shh." So I shut up and watched it, while it almost frolicked back and forth through the treetops. There is no way those tree limbs could have supported the weight of something that tall without bending or even creaking. I asked my grandfather about it the next day, and he said, "I've been hunting and sleeping in these hills for most of my life, and I've seen that damn thing since I was a kid. Most people around here have. Never heard of no one ever talking to it, but I've known plenty who came out here and never got home. I have no clue what that thing was, and you are the first person I've ever heard who actually saw it too." I went camping with two friends a few years ago. We went pretty far away from civilization. The nearest town had a population of 30 people and was an hour away from the lake we were at. It was cool. I usually try to get away while camping, but this was the most extreme to date, and you could feel it. During the first night, the three of us were sleeping in the tent when I woke up to a noise of something brushing against the tent. The tent was around 5 feet tall at its peak, and whatever was in our sight was brushing against it near the top. I have never in my life been filled with such true fear. I've camped a lot and have had run-ins with bears and other animals, and have been scared before, but this feeling was different. There was something extra unnerving about this. I stayed laying there completely still with my heart beating out of my chest as whatever this was kept methodically brushing against the tent. It wasn't making much other noise other than the back and forth on the tent. I put my finger up to my face and made the shh gesture before slowly poking my friend, who was sleeping facing me, awake. He heard the noise immediately and his face dropped. He was wide awake looking at me as we just stared at each other, wide-eyed. He spent a lot of time growing up on a reserve and the accompanying most untouched land in the coastal BC, but later explained never experiencing anything like it. So we laid there for a minute, wide awake, practically shaking with fear, and then the next thing we know, we both woke up in the morning. We woke up at the same time and immediately started asking what the hell that was last night and what happened. We both felt so awake at the time and were having trouble understanding how we just fell asleep. We explained it to our other friend as he awoke to us frantically recapping the evening. When we left the tent and went back to the site, everything looked normal. There was a half-full box of Ritz crackers that we left out, our bad, untouched. The one thing that looked different is we had left a stack of red plastic cups out of the table, and they were all melted on one side to the point to where we couldn't pull them out because they had a new indented mold. It blew our minds. We spent the whole day trying to figure out possibly how that could have occurred. It makes no sense. One of my friends fell very ill as the day went on. We decided to leave that site after the next night and camped the 2 other nights of our planned trip at a more populated site closer to home, as we all were very, very uneasy about what had transpired. I'm not even sure what I think happened. All I know is that that is the creepiest feeling I've ever felt. Whenever myself and the friend who I woke up get together, the conversation ends up on that night always with the quote, "What the hell happened that night?" Me and my little sister went camping in the woods very close to our house when we were kids. We'd seen this bald guy with a blue shirt and a dog walking around, which isn't unusual for the area. You'll often see people walking and say hello. For some reason though, I just got this tight feeling in my chest, and my sister must have too, because we both just gave each other this look. I don't know what it was that made me do it. This is very out of character for me, but I took a picture of the back of him as he was walking away. A while later, we see the same guy again near the lake. He comes over and asks us about the tent we're carrying, where we'll be setting up, and are we camping with our dad. We say yes, we're just going to see him now. A lie. We must have had the same moment of psychicness because we walked off up a fork in the path until we were out of view, then looked at each other and jumped down the path hidden by the bushes and waited behind them on the parallel trail for a bit. The guy watched us walk off, pretended to play with his dog until he couldn't see us, then turned around and ran up the path after us. Thankfully he didn't see us hidden and carried on up straight where he thought we had gone. We decided camping was a bad idea and went home. That evening my mom shows us a post in the local residents group, which is a picture of the same bald guy trying to break into someone's house. Apparently he'd just been walking around trying people's front doors and claimed to be a repair guy when he was stopped. I dread to effing think what his intentions were, but it was very lucky me and my sister knew those woods so well, otherwise we wouldn't have thought to go down one of the hidden paths. viewing to see a flat that didn't exist. Not my story, but one my mom told me from her 20s when she was living and working in London, England. I'll do my best to retell it. Also, I'm dyslexic, so apologies in advance for my grammar. The story always gives me the creeps, though, when I think about it. So back in her 20s, my mom was living in London and looking to move into a slightly bigger place. She'd found a really good price for a flat slightly out from the area she was hoping. She called the agent to book a viewing, and that's when things turned odd. So the guy booking the viewing started asking weird requests and questions, such as to bring her passport, her age, race, and physical appearance. Would she be coming on her own? Did she have a car, or would she be getting the bus? He was very persistent that she should arrive by bus, as it would be the easiest for her. Explains it was a straight road down from the bus stop to the apartment block. Obviously quite unnerved by this call, but still interested because the flat looked ideal, she and my dad, who were dating at the time, decided to check the exterior and surrounding areas. The day before the viewing, they drove there. First passing the bus stop he was indicating her to arrive via. From the bus stop, there was about 150 to 200 meters of desolate wasteland that she would have to walk past to get to the flat. And standing at the end of the street in the location this apartment block should have been was a huge abandoned building. Smashed broken windows, graffiti, no entry signs, the lot, definitely nothing inhabitable in sight. Still, when she tells this story today, you can see how much it rightly shook her. Of course, she didn't go to her viewing. However, she informed the police, advising them of the planned time and place. From what she saw from following up with them, they didn't appear to take this tip seriously, and little was done. A couple years later, while in a pub with some friends, she gets chatting to a guy she just met through some mutual friends that night. He was in the police, and through conversation, her story came up. He said that area at the time of her viewing had a huge human trafficking problem. Still gives me chills. So I hope you guys enjoyed that Reddit video. If you guys want more, or if you guys want any specific videos or specific types of videos, let me know and I'll do the best to get them out as soon as possible. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Till next time.